Hi, my name is Nidhi Sharma. I am a women's health physical therapist here at FuncPhysio Physical Therapy. Today we're talking about pelvic floor. Where is it? What does it do? And what are its functions? What is its importance? So to explain pelvic floor, we're going to look at the model. Here is the pelvis, and we're kind of looking at cutting the torso off, and we're looking inside. This is the bone on the right, bone on the left. There is the bone in the back, and that there's would be the spine that starts and goes up. Okay, so as you can see inside, there are organs. This will be bladder, this will be uterus, and if we take these organs out, there is a big muscle, this red muscle inside. That muscle is pelvic floor. I'm going to show you from different angle. From this angle, you can see how this is a sling that goes from the back, from the tailbone, all the way to the front of the pubic bone. So, and from the bottom, if we see, it's a big hammock, it's a big basket of muscle inside the pelvis. So this is the pelvic floor. It's a skeletal muscle. So a muscle that we have control over. So smooth muscles are muscles like heart or uterus that we have no control over. We cannot stop them from contracting. And skeletal muscles like our biceps and pelvic floor, we have control over them. So we can stop them, we can make them contract, we can make them relax. Because we can make this muscle contract, that's why we can hold our pee or we can hold our gas. So one of the main functions of pelvic floor is to give us control over our bowel movement and our urination. If we take a look at this pelvic floor, there are 3 openings in this muscle. So there's this big opening that is vaginal opening. There is one opening that's anal opening. And there is a small opening here that is the urethral opening. Urethral opening is where you pee from. And this is the vaginal opening. This is the anal opening where you poop from. With this muscle, we're able to contract and close these openings. That's why you're able to stop your pee when we can't pee until you get to the bathroom. You're able to stop your gas. When these muscles relax, we're able to open these openings, and that's how we're able to control our urination, control our bowel movement. So that's one of the primary function of pelvic floor, which is somewhat widely known. And people understand that if there's leaking, the pelvic floor is weak and you might need to strengthen it. But we're going to go over 2 or 3 other functions that are not very well known. So the second function of pelvic floor is sexual function. Not a lot of people know that these muscles are responsible for arousal and orgasm and erection and ejaculation in men. So we saw this big muscle inside. Now let's look at the small muscles at the vaginal opening. So you see there is a muscle here, there's a muscle here, there's a muscle at the bottom, there's a muscle around the anal opening, and there's also a muscle around the vaginal opening. All these small muscles of our perineum, they help in arousal. These muscles contract and affect the clitoral opening, clitoral tissue, to help arousal. All these muscles also contract strongly during orgasm. So if there is painful orgasm, or if there's painful arousal, these muscles are often responsible for it. If there is low arousal, low orgasm, these muscles can be involved in it. So that's the second function, the sexual function. The third function of pelvic floor is of core stability. Again, not a lot of people know that pelvic floor is a core muscle. So when we say core muscle, when we say core strengthening, we often mean abdominals. People think we mean just abdominals. Pelvic floor is the bottom of the whole entire spine. So if you think about this model, where we have spine that goes into pelvis, and now there will be pelvic floor inside here. So the abdominals form the wall of our core, and pelvic floor actually forms the bottom or the floor of that core. And the floor of that core is just as important as the walls of that core. So pelvic floor is very, very important for strengthening. A lot of people who have weak pelvic floor tend to have back pain. a lot of pain who have chronic back pain tend to have weak pelvic floor or tight pelvic floor. Pelvic floor dysfunction is often related to lower back pain, to hip pain, to SI joint pain, to tailbone pain. So if you have all these pains on the outside of pelvis or lower back, which is not resolving despite all the treatments, it may be because there is pelvic floor dysfunction and problem inside the pelvis. So that's something should be looked into in chronic lower back pain patients. Fourth and last function of pelvic floor is circulation. Pelvic floor is very important for circulation because it is the midpoint between the upper body and trunk and the lower body. Okay, this is where most of the blood vessels have to pass through to get to the lower body. So this muscle, when it contracts and relaxes, is often helping and working as a sump pump. It is helping the circulation of the legs and of the lower body. So weakness, problems, congestion in this muscle can cause circulation problems in lower body, or circulation problems in lower body can affect pelvic floor indirectly. So these are the 4 functions of pelvic floor. One is urinary and bowel movement control. Second is sexual function. Third is core strength and stability. And fourth is circulation. Hope that helps.